So where do we start? When we start changing a game, we're just going to go straight through the code and kind of modify one piece at a time. So in terms of the player object, right? The player object goes from the airplane that can move in 4 directions to this guy who can move only in 2 directions. I also, instead of starting him up in the sky, I need to start him down here. And also, I'm going to get really fancy and I'm going to change the image so that he's facing in the direction that he's skateboarding. So if he's skateboarding to the left, he'll face to the left, and if he's going to the right, he'll face to the right. So changing the player object, let's get into it. And we're starting with the code that I've provided for you. If you look at, no, it was on that previous page right here, the sample code under resources. This is the code I'm going to start with, and I'm just going to copy and paste it straight into PyCharm. So copy that, and let's paste it in there. And I want to make sure that I can test this out, so I'm going to make sure yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, so I'm just going to fix these 2 paths right here so that these images open. And let's run that. And we'll see what the game actually looks like to start with. Okay, so there it is. The game, the missiles are moving pretty quick already. We're going to have to fix that. But there it is. That's the game to start with. So let's start by playing with the player object. So we're going to change him up first. And so what are we going to do first? Let's change the surface to the new image. And I've got all my images sort of collected here. And they all start with the word skate. And let's see, skater left and skater right are the images that I'm going to use for the skater. So I'm going to go, we'll start with him facing right, skater right, .png, and we're going to set the color key. Now, if you notice on this, I'm not using white for my transparency because his shirt is white. So if I use white for my transparency, his shirt will be transparent. So I made the background cyan, and so that's another easy color that is like a full blast color that you don't see very often. So cyan means I just get rid of the red because green plus blue equals cyan. So there we go. That is doing the transparency. And then self.rectangle is, I'm going to leave this the same because we're going to get the rectangle from the image. And then I want to tell this thing where to go. And instead of doing self.rectangle.top, I'm going to do what we've done in the enemy sprite. Remember where we had this center attribute that we passed into the rectangle. So I'm going to say center equals, and in that, I need to give it 2 tuples, or a tuple with 2 coordinates, because I'm telling the center of the player where to appear. So the center is going to be a tuple with 2 values, and the x value, left and right, I'm going to put them in the center of the screen. And if I know the screen height is 600, then I know the center of the screen is the screen, or the screen width, sorry. The width is 800. If I know the width is 800, then the center of the screen is 800 divided by 2, or I would do screen width 4 divided by 2 because I need an exact number of pixels. And then I want him to be just a little bit up from the bottom. So we had that little road on the bottom. I don't want him to be on the very bottom of the screen, but a little bit up. So let's say 100 pixels from the bottom. So if I say screen height minus 100, that gives me 100 pixels from the bottom. So let's test this, but before I test it, I don't want him dying on account of getting hit by any missiles. So I'm going to come down here to the collision detection, and right here, I'm just going to disable the impact of any collision. I'll comment that one out too. So there's no collision checking here. So now let's see if it works. Okay, so there is my skater. And right now he can still move in 4 directions, but I got the image right and the placement looks pretty good. So that's a good start. Let's come up here to the player object again. And let's do a couple of things. The first thing I want to do is I want to disable the up and down, because no matter how good you are at skating, you're not going to be flying around in the sky. So we're going to get rid of that. So now he can only move left and right. I'm going to set it to 10 so he can move a little more quickly left and right. And we want to keep the player on the screen, so we're just going to leave that the same. But what we also want to do is we want to change the image so that he's facing the direction he's going. So every time he moves left, I want to change the image to the image of him facing left. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this code for loading the image and into the surface, and I'm going to paste it right there. So this is left. I'm changing it to skater left. And when he moves right, I want to change it to skater right. That's already set for me. Now let's test it. Notice that I keep, I'll do a little bit and then I'll test it. I'll do a little bit, then I'll test it. That's how you want to do this. You don't want to change like 20 things and then test it, because if you change 20 things and it doesn't work, it's really hard to figure out what you did wrong. So I'm just changing a little bit at a time. Uh-oh. Okay, so notice when I start moving around, I lose that transparency. And the reason for that is because when I load that image, I've got to set the color key again. So I need this line of text also. And after I load the image, I'm going to set the color key to transparent. Now when I test that, it should work. There we go. So I've got my skateboarder now. He is doing all the things he should be doing. That's all I have to worry about for him now. So that's that piece. So changing the player object, we figured out where he starts, we figured out how he moves, and we were able to change the image for left and right. We're good there.